Hi everyone. I feel like this video is long overdue, but life is crazy, life is busy. But I wanted to kind of do an overall video of my experience through chemo and radiation, and kind of give you a look on that of how my journey went. I really wish I would have like took videos more during the time to kind of give you more of an accurate, I guess, play-by-play of what I was going through. But it was rough, so rough. So I didn't get a chance to do that, and I don't wish to go back to do that either because it was not fun. I don't recommend it. So I kind of just wanted to follow up. I did take pictures along the way, and this video will probably just be just an overview, like I said, of my experience. I'll kind of, in different videos, dive deeper into external radiation, internal radiation, and chemo. But I think what I'll do is just post a picture and then post kind of like what was going on during that time and how things went. So here we go. I guess I should mention first that after 6 weeks of chemo and I want to say 9 or 10 weeks of internal and external radiation, I got results back in July that I was cancer-free again. Because if you're just joining in, or if you've kind of been along with me through this process, you'll know that back in December, I was diagnosed with the cervical cancer had came back. And a lot of questions were asked of how did it come back if you had a hysterectomy. I thought that was supposed to solve it. I thought so too. Turns out it can come back, and it can come back anywhere. Mine happened to come back at the top of the vaginal cuff. So luckily it was localized, and again we caught it kind of a little bit early. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that the chemo and radiation that I went through took care of it this time again. If not, I don't know. I don't know what the plan would be. I don't want to know because I'm hoping this took care of everything. I'm really hoping that it did. I watched the first video I ever posted about cervical cancer today, and goodness gracious, I was a mess. I'm still kind of a mess at times, and I think later on or in a different video, I want to touch on the after part of chemo and radiation and the after part of getting your results back, because I don't feel like there's a lot of videos out there that kind of cover it, about kind of what goes on, because I feel like your life changes again, especially after you're diagnosed a second time. Your life is completely different, in a good way and also in a bad way. So if you haven't watched my first video, it's a tearjerker. I still cry watching it because a lot of those fears came back, and they're still very prevalent in my life. And I'm going to try not to cry in this video because, number one, I have makeup on. And number two, I just don't like crying. It's not me. I don't like it. I feel weak and a wimp. But I'll probably tear up, especially when I talk about my kids, or after I watch some of the footage that I shot. It's, going back to that place, and it's, like I said, it's not fun. It's not a fun place to be at all. So yeah. I will say big shout out to my community. Big shout out to Holly and Ryan Abbott, who own Leroy's Place, uptown. If it wasn't for Holly organizing like a meal train for those weeks of chemo and radiation. My poor kids probably would have lived off of sandwiches or whatever they could scrounge out of the kitchen. But Holly was able to organize a bunch of people who came together, who kind of provided meals throughout the week for me during those times, because it was rough, it was tiring, it was nauseating to the max. And so without those meals, I wouldn't have made it. So thank you to the community, and thank you to Holly for doing that and all the extra stuff. I have a book of people that I kept who donated their time of bringing food or making food or buying food for my family. And I will probably bring it out a little bit later and run by each person and thank them. And I wrote down what they did, what they brought, and with the intention of sending out thank you notes, but I never got around to that because I'm a procrastinator, and that's what we do. So yeah. All right. Here we go with the first picture. Okay, so what you just saw with those pictures, that was the very beginning. That was scan time. So basically what happened is I went to the cancer center, and that long needle that you saw, they inserted vaginally. It hurt. It's like a needle getting shot in your vagina. It's not fun. It's not comfortable. But they put these little like micro type beads, so the scan will pick up the cancer area, and that's to figure out where the radiation needs to be pointed towards, like what area. I mean, obviously it's in the vaginal area, but it just helps with the accuracy of the radiation, of mapping it out. I guess that's the proper word for it. And that helps with external radiation and internal radiation. I believe more so, I think external than anything, if I remember correctly. So that's what that was for. Like I said, it's not comfortable. That needle is not comfortable. If you've ever had a shot in your mouth for cavities or something, it's like that, but in a more sensitive area, if you get what I'm saying. So it is not fun. It hurt. The whole mapping process, that whole process, I think took maybe an hour to two. I think the longest part was, the waiting, and then they come in, they map you, they make you kind of lay really still, and they, at the same time when they're mapping, there is a pillow of beads, almost like a beanbag pillow, and they form that to your legs, and that comes in handy through the radiation process, because it kind of gives them, one, it helps you to relax during radiation, and number two, it kind of helps them with the positioning during radiation, because they want it to be the same like every single time. So that just gives them more of an accurate part. So that little pillow, it suctions to your legs, and so you can just put your legs right in it, and it helps with that process. Other than that, the mapping process wasn't too hard. Like I said, just waiting and staying really still during that process, that's probably the hardest part. So that last photo I posted, it was in the ear, nose, and throat doctor, because in one of my scans, it came back that my lymph nodes were swollen, or whatever the terminology is for it. It turns out when they scanned, when they did the full body scan, the lymph nodes came back, and they were like a little bit concerned because they were hoping that it wasn't the cancer that got into the lymph nodes, but they just wanted to verify. So I went to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he kind of felt around, and he confirmed that they were swollen. So they sent me to a pathologist, and the pathologist, they took samples from there, and she was able to tell me at the time of the appointment that it didn't look cancerous. It wasn't caused by the cancer. Well, it could have been caused by the cancer. It was just an indicator of that the cancer probably could have been back, or that I had caught something that that wasn't affecting me any sort of way. So it wasn't cancerous, I guess. Cancer wasn't in my lymph nodes, if that's how you want to put it. So that's what that part was. So then I went back to him after I got the results back, and he kind of just made sure that everything was okay. So that's what that photo was. So that was me on my first day of chemo and radiation. Looking back, I was so naive. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Yeah, I was nervous that day. Very nervous, obviously. But looking back, I look at those pictures and I was like, oh, you poor soul. You have no idea what you're about to endure. So yeah. And then the other pictures were actual chemo, the setup, the needles. It was a 6-hour process. I'll make a separate video or I might have a video up. I can't remember. I don't YouTubes a lot. But I'll go kind of more in depth with that, what that process was like, what you went through, that kind of stuff. But you sit in a chair for 6 hours, hooked up to an IV, and you have to pee a million times. Brief overview. So that's what you have to look forward to. So that was the radiation room. That machine, there's a table that comes out and you lay on that table. That machine kind of like hovers over the area that they have mapped out and shoots radiation to it. You don't feel it. I would say you can't see it and you don't feel it at the beginning. You will never see it, of course. But I felt like towards the end you could start to feel it a little bit, and that's just probably because your insides are all kinds of messed up. And I'll post a separate video going more into radiation, what you have to look forward to, the after effects of it, kind of give you some tips on what you need to have on hand. I mean, they go over a little bit of it during the consultation part of it, but there are things that you'll come across. I will say, if something comes up where your body doesn't feel right, it's not, you feel like something's off, don't hesitate to tell your doctor. If it's embarrassing, because there are embarrassing things that could happen with radiation, again, don't be afraid to go to the nurses, go to your doctor about it, because they've probably heard it all before. And you know what? Pride be damned. Am I right? They can give you things to help relieve the pain that you'll experience. So just bring up anything of concern to them because, you know, they're used to it. They're doctors, they're nurses, they've seen it all, especially the nurses. You guys are great. They've seen it all, they've heard it all. Don't be embarrassed to ask. I will say that. But yeah, that's the radiation room. You know, it's kind of dark, kind of quiet. They play a little bit of music. The door, I was just like, is this a bomb shelter door? But obviously it's radiation, so the door was very thick, it was very wide, it was very heavy. They're all really nice. Well, the people that I had were really nice. I hope yours are nice as well, considering what you're going through. But yeah, radiation was receiving radiation, I should say, was the easy part. Because it's literally a 15 to 20 minute process. And like I said, I'll go into more detail in a separate video. So those pictures, you start to see me kind of as the couple of weeks went on. I think that those pictures show like week 2, week 3. You kind of start to see it get a little bit worse. You know, it's not a pretty sight. It's not pretty to endure. I did get sick because obviously it depletes your immune system. There was like a flu of some sort going around. I caught it. So I was sick. I was extra sick on top of being chemo sick. There was a point where I was like, okay, this is how I die. I was running a fever, coughing. I was sleeping more than the chemo sleep. I had to wear a mask. The ladies that were doing radiation and who were around me had to wear a mask, obviously because they're around other cancer patients. And so they didn't want to get sick. Obviously, you don't want to pass that on. So they were extra cautious. I felt like the walking plague whenever I went into there. One of the nurses was pregnant, and I felt so bad going in there feeling like shit and being contagious. Like, I took extra caution because I knew I was around other cancer patients, and some of them looked a lot worse than I did. So I definitely didn't want to add that to their plate, and hopefully I didn't. But I took the extra extreme measures when I went places. So yeah, that was not fun. Now, being chemo sick and being flu sick on top of that, it felt like death. It literally did. So that's what those pictures were. These next few pictures is when it really hit me. And the pictures that I've shown you so far, the pictures that I've posted on my social media, I've never posted these pictures on social media. I told you I might tear up. These next couple pictures are... Whew, get it under control, Patty. These next couple pictures were real life for me. My friends have seen them. My friends have seen me be that way. But none of my family saw me like this. So it's hard. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cry. Messing up my makeup. Here we go. But yeah, it's hard to look at those because it was rough. it was really rough, and I keep saying that, but I don't wish that on anyone. And I think what breaks my heart even more is I was 30 years old going through this, and there are small children that receive it a lot more worse than I did, I feel like. And I know I struggled with it being 30 years old, and I think that's what breaks my heart even more, is there are children that are going through this. And it sucks. It sucks so bad. So here's a look. The not pretty side, the not filtered side of chemo. It's a rough day today. And I wanted to record this because not every day is a good day. My kids have to run around and get me something so I can get sick in, and I just don't feel the best. It's rough. So yeah, the not pretty side. It's kind of rough to look at. Me without makeup at my roughest point in life. It's hard to go back, and I did take that video. That was probably week 5 that I took that video, and I felt super guilty because I was tired all the time, and I was nauseous, and I was sick. And by week 5, it was like, oh my gosh, I still have one more week of this. And it was, I can't put into words what it was without saying it's rough all the time. It's rough. I need to expand my vocabulary, but it was rough. And I felt really guilty because my kids are, how old are my kids? 7 and 8 years old. And they would rush around and get mommy something to get sick, and I wasn't getting sick, but I felt like I was gonna get sick, and I didn't want to get sick on the floor because I'm not cleaning that up because gross. So I felt guilty that they were 7 and 8 years old having to watch their mom go through this. They didn't understand what was going on. They knew I was sick. They don't understand the concept of cancer. They don't understand the extent of it. But they had to watch it. And that last photo that I took, that was me laying on my kitchen floor. My daughter took that as a kind of funny moment. It's like, oh, mom's asleep on the floor. She didn't feel well. And to her, it was kind of a funny moment. To me, it was sad to look at because that's what my kids were seeing. And like I said, yeah, she thought it was funny. Mommy wasn't feeling well. She was laying on the floor, kind of asleep on the kitchen floor. And to her, like I said, to her, it was funny. To me, I saw that on my phone and I just bawled. Because that just broke my heart of that's what they saw, you know. Other kids that they went to school with probably weren't seeing that on a daily basis. But that's what they saw. That's what they were part of. And like I said, it broke my heart to see that. I will say, after even going through all of that, my kids went through the school year, perfect attendance. My daughter, she's always struggled with reading. She got to where she needed to be. You know, my son's always just been a sponge. He just kind of consumes everything. But, you know, we worked on his handwriting, reading. So going through all of that, at the end, they were still normal kids. They went to school. They came home. We did homework as much as we could. So yeah, that's huge for them. Like I said, not a pretty part. And they're coming off the bus now. So I'm going to go because my daughter's going to come in. So the last two photos were me graduating from radiation. The first was the one in the yellow sweater is when I graduated from external radiation, and the one with me in the jean jacket is when I graduated from internal radiation. It's two separate things. They happened, internal radiation happened after external radiation. And I'll post videos on those to kind of give you more in-depth look of what you would expect out of those. So yeah, that concludes this video. Like I said, I want to give a couple more videos of a deeper look into chemo and a deeper look into radiation to let you guys know what to expect. And another video on the aftermath, because you still have effects from those things even months down the road, and mentally it's taxing on you mentally a little bit. Some people more than others, I feel like. So I want to touch on that because, like I said, I don't think there's a whole lot of videos out there that talk about afterwards. You watch somebody's journey through those videos, but you kind of miss the afterwards effects of it. So I kind of want to touch on that a little bit because it does still exist in your mind. It may not exist in your body once it's gone, but in your mind it's there. And it's just a constant battle, I feel like. So, like I said, I'll post another video on that. But for now, this is just my kind of overview of what I went through, my journey. I wish I would have posted weekly along the way, but I didn't. So here's an overview. Talk to you guys later. Bye.